Chapter 25. Nothing remarkable about this area, except one dark section that was just begging for a flashlight. I went up, cast a light, and saw twisty passages that suggested a maze. The light was curiously muted, dying out after only a few feet. "You want to poke in here?" I whispered. Whispering seemed appropriate. No. Maybe we don't need to, and I don't like the look of the place. It's dark, not that I'm afraid of the dark. Really. I sure am, especially recently. Alright, it's pitch black, it's a maze. And the ceilings are low and claustrophobic. Pass. I mean, why? Life is short, especially on Dimos. I was still staring into the blackness when gunshots yanked my attention back to Arlene. I raced down the hall and saw her pumping slugs into tiny, emaciated demons, so small I almost didn't recognize them. "Look what I found," she exclaimed, kicking the tiny bodies aside. Reaching behind their corpses, Arlene extracted a blue key card. Tiny demons. I wondered, were they mutants? Failed experiments? Or did demons shrink when they starved? Other possibilities were more disturbing. Were these child demons? Were demons born or hatched, or created whole? Somewhere. I shuddered. Whatever they were, they gave me the creeps more than their gigantic counterparts. She sprang the door with the key card, and we went right through, smooth as you please, only to discover another door right behind it, this one requiring a yellow card. "Ega," I bellowed, and by God I meant it. An hour later we had traded a bunch of ammunition for a shiny, new, yellow key card. Don't ask. We shuffled back to the mystery door, and Arlene inserted the card. It slid, revealing yet another door, red. "You know," I said, "there's only one section of this whole place we've avoided. The dark, mazy thing we passed. Fly, we don't even know there's a key card in there, or that if there is, it's red." Well, I shot a door open with a rocket once. Quote, "How many rockets we have now?" 6. "How many does it take to kill a hell prince?" Usually 6. Arlene sucked air through her teeth. "Maze," she voted. I understood her concern. If we used 1 or 2 rockets to open the last door, then encountered a minotaur on the other side, we'd be out of luck. I shrugged. Maze it was. As we entered the pitch-black corridor, our flashlights barely penetrated the darkness. "There must be some kind of neutralizing or damping field," Arlene whispered behind me. This bit was too close to that Jules Verne movie, where the members of the expedition get separated in the dark. I wasn't going to let that happen to us. "Fly, didn't I see a pair of goggles of some sort back in the yellow key room?" "Did you? What of it? Could they be light amplification goggles?" That sounded like a good excuse to get out of the dark. Actually, anything sounded like a good excuse to get out of that dark maze. I had the creepy feeling that creatures were shadowing us, creatures that didn't need light amp goggles. We returned the way we had come, and sure enough, the goggles were there. Arlene was right, 1 pair. Will these even work in the energy-sucking field? I wondered. Arlene shrugged. How else could we find out? At the mouth of the maze we hesitated. Who was to wear them? We settled it. Scientifically, my vision was 20-40, barely good enough to avoid glasses. Arlene's was 20-15, better than perfect. In other words, she got the goggles. Besides, she was the girl. I don't know why that occurred to me then. She seemed to get the goggles an awful lot. She put them on and adjusted for ambient light, then led me back into the tunnel of darkness. I don't even like haunted house rides at amusement parks. "Oh, spit," she said. "Don't give me any bad news. Battery's low. I told you not to give me any bad news. The goggles keep fading in and out." She'd stopped walking forward and I bumped up against her again. Or maybe it's because of the field, but they're lower power than the flashlights, and they do work. Sort of. She started moving again, and dark as it was, I made believe I was her shadow, hand on her shoulder. "Tell me what you see." "Everything is green and fuzzy. It's like looking at the world through a Coke bottle." About 5 minutes into the maze, Arlene dived to the side, bowling me over. An exploding ball of energy lit up our surroundings for a fraction of a second. But all I saw was the back of Arlene's head. "Hell Prince," she shouted. "Fly, use the launcher." "Can't we run?" "No," she said, strangely insistent, "we've got to fight it." Quote, I unslung and waited, staring wide-eyed into the black. Where is it?" I'll guide you, Arlene said, voice lower, more in control. Holding her shoulder so she wouldn't be between me and my monster, I tried to aim the rocket launcher with the other hand. I couldn't do it. Still, stand still, beside me, she urged. Right. Now listen. Another lightning ball scorched the air, pounding the wall just above my head, and I dropped the damned weapon. She didn't miss a beat. It's right at your feet, Fly. Bend down, pick it up. Why don't you take it? You can see. Fly, I don't know how to shoot it, never checked out on it. Now shoulder it. Damn you. Aim me. I was becoming impatient, but I knew she was working as fast as she could. Left to the left, more, elevate, shoot now. I squeezed the firing ring. The flare of the rockets lit up a cone of vision around us, but I still couldn't see the attacker. Where is he? Where? Never mind, you winged him, Fly. Glancing blow to the stomach, knocked him down. Aim me again. The second shot scored a direct hit. Normally that wouldn't stop a Hell Prince. He'd only redouble his efforts. But this one must have gotten lazy in the maze. Only encountering victims occasionally, and no resistance worth mentioning. Suddenly I realized we were facing a minotaur and something like its natural habitat. Aim me, fire, aim me. I loaded my sixth and final round. Where? Quote. Arlene waited a long time. Fly, you knocked it to its butt in a chair thing. With your last shot, it's still breathing, but it's not getting up. We waited, the situation remained static. All right, kid, I said. I guess we're officially clear, and now I can officially tell you why we had to fight. Look at this, whoops. I mean, feel this, a key card, though I have no idea what color, they all look green. To me, that slime had it in its claws. You mean it was there while I fired rockets at the Hell Prince? I could have destroyed the key, too. Well, that's why I kept it a secret. Now aren't you glad you saved those rockets? I guess so, I said, not bothering to point out that if we hadn't gone into the maze at all, just used 1 or 2 rockets on the door, we'd be out of here by now, and richer in rockets, to boot. We started trekking back, and with the unerring instinct such items have, the batteries chose that moment to burn out. Arlene tipped me off with damn it to hell. She pulled the goggles off and shoved them into her pocket. God, Fly, I don't want to die in the dark. I thought she had a perfectly reasonable attitude. The idea of being caught and torn to shreds when you can't even see to fight back didn't appeal to me, either. I had a vague idea of the way we must return. I took her hand and led her as fast as possible in that direction. Even found time to pray again. The nuns always knew the power of a dark room to inspire piety. After all that, I really was in no mood for a damned imp waiting for us when we'd almost made it through the maze. It hissed, and we stopped cold. We could hear it, but where was it? Hands shaking, I spun left and right with my scattergun, afraid to shoot lest I give away our own position. Or worse, hit Arlene. Jesus! Arlene shouted, finding religion as a fireball careened over our heads. What a dolt, the imp, not Arlene. The fireball lit our surroundings, and in the glare I fixed Arlene and the imp. When the fireball faded, I shot where the imp was. Arlene didn't kill time when she could kill a monster instead. She fired, just as I did, and the imp was toast. We were back in the light in short order. We returned to the 3-door stack. I performed the honors of opening the last door, popping through, finding the lift, pressing the down button, and asking Arlene if she didn't enjoy the music of screams and explosions behind us as the monsters took care of each other. They were running out of humans. This is a hell of an invasion, she said. You can say that again. Daimaz must have been listening and eager to confirm every prejudice we had. As the lift door slid open at the next level down, we found ourselves staring into the hugest, hairiest, foulest, and pinkest butt I'd ever seen. One of the demons, Arlene's pinkies, was standing with its backside up against the lift door. It hadn't even noticed that the door had opened. Cautiously, I raised a machine gun and Arlene raised a shotgun. We gritted our teeth against the noise and fired simultaneously. A light drop rectal suppository. But on the other side of Demon 1 was Demon 2, and it did not take kindly to our prescription. This one charged like a housefrau on speed in a megastore. We hadn't been able to see it originally because its buddy had blocked the view. Now it dived through the door after us. The big silly got itself stuck. We took our time blowing this one to oblivion at point-blank range. Oh, our bruised eardrums. As Arlene wiped demon gunk out of her eyes, she took a gander at her clothes. And asked, does this come out or is it like gravy? Don't ask me. I was never much of a house husband. Although we felt good about our most recent bout of carnage, we couldn't help but notice that we'd trapped ourselves between two demon bodies, each of which probably weighed over 500 kilos, a half-ton per baby. We'd have to climb out between them. How are you at mountain climbing? She asked. How are you at spelunking? I asked back. She owned I was right, we didn't so much climb over the bodies as burrow our way through them. It took a bit of wriggling and writhing, and breath holding, but eventually even I made it. The next problem consisted of some imps. Mighty monster slayers such as Arlene and myself could no longer be bothered with something so trivial as a few imps. We mopped up the floor with them on our way. I think we're getting a bit cocky, Arlene said. We earn the right to wear the haircut of our choosing, I shot back, and she laughed louder than ever before. We entered a warehouse through an open door and around a couple of corners. This one was stacked wall to wall with pinkies, none as large as our elevator pals. They charged, having nowhere else to go. I leapt up, grabbed the edge of a huge box and hauled myself onto the top, then stretched out my hand for Arlene. The way the demons screamed and growled and pounded on the box, you'd think they didn't appreciate initiative and quick thinking. They were so upset. They made the box shake violently. I was afraid we might be thrown off, but by God, we hung on. Then we aimed, squeezed, and eventually the box stopped shaking. We didn't have any trouble getting down. Now we had a moment to enjoy the new decor. The motif here was gleaming chrome and intricate blued enamel. The appearance was rather sci-fi, actually. Utterly misplaced, considering the monsters inhabiting it. But then, I didn't subscribe to Better Homes and Demons. Then we kicked the door at the far end. Well, I kicked it, and found the spawning vats themselves. Huge, metal containers they were, a heaping helping of pure evil. Cisterns, containing a weird, toxic green junk, but not thick like the slime. Inside each container was the body of a half-formed monster. Arlene, on a whim of personal revulsion against the aliens, shot one of the partly formed torsos. The wound sealed up with a giant sucking sound, and the creature continued cooking. How do you stop something like this? She asked. I wish I knew. We can give up the hope of a finite number of the things. They must be genetically engineered soldiers. The alien mastermind, whoever or whatever it is, must be stealing our nightmares and producing them wholesale. Yeah. I wonder how long it takes for a vat to finish producing a newborn monster. Arlene held up her watch. 6 minutes later the one she'd shot was finished. And none the worse for wear. She shot it again as it stumbled out of the vat. Again and again. Now the bullets worked. We repeated the experiment several more times at 6-minute intervals. The fluid is life-preserving as well as life-producing, I said. But when a critter is born, in other words, Arlene said, we can't do abortion, but we sure as hell can nail 'em as newborns. She wrinkled her brow. Let's do a rough calculation. At 6 minutes to cook a monster, that's 10 creatures per hour per vat. Say 64 vats in the room, means 640 monsters per hour just from this one room. Christ. That's 15,000 per day. There could be scores of rooms. In a few days they could have an army of millions, Arlene said, finishing her number exercise. We still have one chance, Arlene. Find the alien mastermind and destroy it. Yeah, that's all we have to do, she scoffed. Piece of cake.